Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to today's Roznama daily newspaper analysis. And without wasting any further time, let us quickly begin. Now, the first piece of news that you have to keep in mind has been which has been in news for the past 2-3 days is the United States of America trade agreement, all right, or the new trade deal. Okay, now it was in news for the past 3-4 days, firstly because it was a massive relief that the total amount of tariffs, including the reciprocal tariffs as well as the penalty tariffs that was imposed on India, has been reduced. Okay, so initially we were imposed a reciprocal tariff of 25%, then India got a penalty tariff of 25%. So as per the new trade deal, the penalty tariff has been struck off. Now this penalty tariff was imposed citing the reason that India is purchasing Russian oil, okay? And the reciprocal tariff that was put on India, this has been reduced to now a total of 18%, all right? Now, not only was Russian oil one of the reasons for increase in the total amount of tariffs that was imposed in India, but Russian oil right now also is somewhat at the center of the India-US trade deal. Now, how is it at the center? Is because the United States of America had made this massive major announcement saying that India has now said that India is not going to purchase any more Russian oil, and instead India is going to purchase oil from Venezuela, all right, and India is going to reduce its entire Russian oil purchase. Now, this is a statement that was made by the President of United States of America. Recently, a joint statement has been issued on the new deal, but in this joint statement also, the Indian government has made no mention of the Russian oil, okay? All right. Now, the second thing that you have to keep in mind that yesterday's newspaper only highlighted this fact that our total import of Russian oil has now reduced to, has reached its 34-month low, okay? So, our total Russian import of oil has also reduced of late. Now, this reduction in Russian oil imports can be for other reasons also. One of the most important reasons that I feel could be a probable cause is that India is right now working very adamantly on transitioning from non-renewable sources of energies to renewable sources of energies, and we are doing fairly well in that sphere, okay? We have effectively harnessed good quantities of solar energy, wind energy, as well as nuclear energy, whereas wherein greater emphasis as of now has been laid on nuclear energy, okay? So that could be one of the reasons, and also another reason can naturally be that India was trying to negotiate an effective trade deal with USA. So that could also be one of the reasons that India, wanted to phase out its dependence on Russian oil eventually, okay? All right. Now, this was one thing about it. The second thing is that here you can see our Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. So, do keep the name in mind, Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. So, another thing that I want to flag for you all with respect to this, which was also in the news for the past 2-3 days, is that the Indian farmers have made a major, have shown their displeasure at the India-US framework deal, okay? Now, why have they shown this displeasure is because they've cited reasons which are absolutely correct. They've cited reasons that India has agreed to reduce import duties on US agricultural goods, okay? What have they cited? They've cited that India has agreed to reduce import duties on US agricultural products, all right? And specifically, the farmers have been protesting against 3 agricultural produce, that is sorghum, cotton, and corn, or maize. Okay, and the Indian farmers, they have this problem saying that because the US imports on these things have been reduced, the duties on these imports have been reduced, and India also produces these agricultural products in larger numbers. But you know, when we talk about the Indian mindset, a lot of people believe that if something is, you know, made in US or if something is made in Europe, it is of a much superior quality as compared to that of Indian made products. So if the Indians are getting access to US made food grains, produced food grains at a cheaper rate, then naturally they are going to buy the US agricultural products rather than the Indian products. So the Indian farmers are saying that this can act negatively against them. But our Commerce Minister has continuously stressed on this fact, saying that sensitive agricultural items and dairy products have been kept outside the deal. And he's continuously said that the Indian farmers will not suffer in this particular framework. Okay, and also they've talked about that India intends to buy US products worth $500 billion over the next 5 years. Also talked about that they are going to bring about or enhance better employment opportunities for Indians. Okay, now another thing that you have to keep in mind, that this as of now is an interim deal. Okay, it is an interim deal. It is not the final deal that has been published, and as of now no final deal has been brought out for the public. They are still inking the entire deal. Okay, so these are everything that you have to keep in mind. And again, a wonderful article in the Hindu, you can go through it. This article also is from the Hindu, which only seeks to outline the fact, the statement that Trump has basically said that so US has basically said that they have declined this, they have reduced the tariffs and they've cut off the penalty tariffs of 25% that was imposed on India, because India has said that India is going to buy oil from US and also potentially from Venezuela while cutting their supplies from Russia. All right, and they've also cited that because now they are not going to buy oil from Russia, so naturally now India is not going to be a part of sponsoring the Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, so this is another article which just gives you an idea about the US side of it. Then this article is from the Indian Express and it talks about the same thing, that India will eliminate or reduce tariffs on all US industrial goods and a wide range of US food and agricultural products. Now they've mentioned food and agricultural products, but the Commerce Minister has cited saying that sensitive agricultural products have been left out of the deal, which can negatively affect the Indian farmers. Such goods have been left out of the deal. Okay, all right. Then India intends to purchase $500 billion worth US energy products, aircraft parts, precious metals, etc. US will apply 18% reciprocal tariffs on Indian goods, and US will remove reciprocal tariffs on things like generic pharmaceuticals, gems, diamonds, etc. This pharmaceutical is very, very important because as of now, India is trying very hard to expand its pharmaceutical reach. Okay, for example, in the budget also, we have outlined things like Biopharma Shakti. We've outlined things like establishment of new Ayurveda, all India Institutes of Ayurveda, and all India Institutes of Pharmaceuticals. So all these things have been outlined in the budget this year. Only aligning with such budgetary visions, such steps are very, very welcome in the country. And he's continuously said that farm and dairy products, which are very critical for Indian income sectors in the primary sector, has been left out of the interim deal. Okay, all right. Then again, the same thing talks about the same piece of information in the Indian Express as well as in the Hindu. So this is also saying the same thing, that the 25% tariff that was imposed on India because India was purchasing Russian oil has been removed. All right. Okay. Then again highlighted the fact that this particular deal is an interim deal. Okay, it is not as of now the final deal. They're still waiting to ink the final deal. All right. So you can go through this one also. All right, now this is one thing where the oppositions have stepped in, and the opposition parties, specifically the Congress and one of the Congress leaders, P. Chidambaram, who also keeps on giving a wonderful economic insights on in the Indian Express every Sunday. Now, the opposition leaders have said that India has been fooled into the India-US trade deal. The trade deal is tilted heavily, that is, it is giving more benefits to US than it is giving to India. And then they've also asked for answers on the India-Russia oil purchases, and they've said that Indian government has not said anything with respect to our oil purchases from Russia. Okay, so this is a good, wonderful insight into how they believe that the treaty is, or the act, the agreement is more in favor of USA than in India. Okay. All right. Then a very wonderful piece of news and an important piece of news, because we have significant current affairs in terms of Project Cheetah. So that is why you need to keep this in mind. All right. Now, Asha was a cheetah which was brought in from Namibia, and she has delivered 5 cubs, and this is the second time that she's delivered 5 cubs. Okay, so this just seeks to highlight the fact that we've undertaken translocation of cheetahs from Africa. Why did we have to undertake this translocation of cheetahs from Africa? Because cheetahs had gone extinct in India in the year 1952. So cheetahs had gone extinct in India in 1952, and the Indian government wanted to reintroduce cheetahs in India. So they struck a deal with African countries and launched or initiated Project Cheetah. Okay, so Project Cheetah was launched, and Project Cheetah was launched in the year 2022. Under Project Cheetah, we had decided initially to translocate cheetahs from 2 African countries, Namibia and South Africa. Okay, so 8 cheetahs were brought into India from Namibia in the year 2022, and 12 cheetahs were brought to India from South Africa in 2023. Okay, then last year in November, India struck a pact with a third African country, which is Botswana. Okay, so Botswana also is scheduled to bring to translocate cheetahs from Botswana to India, and for Botswana also they are now asking or anticipating an arrival of around 8 cheetahs. Okay, so this is something relevant that you have to keep in mind. Second, another thing about Project Cheetah itself, that they were introduced for the first time in the Kuno National Park. Okay, and then a second national park was also decided for cheetahs. So a second national park was Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary. Okay, and a third one has been proposed, which is Nora Dehi. Okay, so all 3 of them are in the state of Madhya Pradesh. All right, so you can keep that in mind. And then the first cheetah to reach adulthood was Mukhi. Okay, the first cheetah to reach adulthood in India was Mukhi. Okay, so do keep in mind, and these are all African cheetahs. When we talk about Asiatic cheetahs, we had them in India, but in India it went extinct in 1952, and as of now Asiatic cheetahs are only found in the country of Iran and no other country. Okay? So do keep all of this in mind. The same piece of news in the Hindu. Then moving to another one. Okay, we have a nice, wonderful piece of editorial also on Aragji today. So Araghchi is Iran's foreign minister, and Iran and US as of now are negotiating a pact to bring about peaceful conciliations between the two countries and to finally put an end to the entire nuclear energy differences that have crept up between the two countries. All right. So they have been trying to negotiate, and Iran has put in or basically said that initially they were all just a few days back, 3-4 days back, there were a lot of online skirmishes between the two countries where US had threatened that US is going to send an armada to Iran. Iran also retaliated, saying that Iran is absolutely ready to wage a war, etc. But then eventually Iran started issuing certain conciliatory statements saying that they are ready to negotiate at a fair footing, and they will not be negotiating if they are coerced into negotiations, in the sense that they can't be forcefully brought to the negotiation table, but they are open to fair and just negotiations. Okay. Chalo. Then the next piece of news that you have to keep in mind, that Russia-Ukraine war is currently going on, and the two leaders of Russia and Ukraine, they are also trying to now bring an end to the war. They've been trying to meet in countries like Turkey, where they are trying to conciliate their differences and trying to strike a peace agreement between the two. US has also been trying to negotiate since the war has begun, but absolutely to no resolve till now. So now the US president is somewhat losing his patience, and he's given them a deadline till June to come to terms of in terms of the Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, so the war began in the year 2022, and just 10-15 days later it is going to enter its 4th year. It is going to complete 4 years, and it is a devastating war launched in 2022. It was launched only because Russia felt threatened. Why? Because Ukraine started showing inclinations to join NATO, and if they would join NATO, so NATO is naturally the brainchild of United States of America. So if Ukraine joins NATO and Ukraine has a direct border with Russia, so it would give a full-fledged open hand to NATO and US to align armaments at the very border of Russia. So it would be a major internal and external security threat to Russia. That is why, just to prevent Ukraine from joining or becoming a part of NATO, Russia undertook this massive invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Until now, the war has not come to an end. Okay. Another thing that you have to keep in mind, that when the Russia-Ukraine war began, so India launched Operation Ganga. Operation Ganga was launched by India to bring back Indian citizens who were stranded in Ukraine. Okay. Chalo. Next piece of news is the T20 World Cup. Okay, I just wanted to flag this entire news for you for one particular issue, that naturally the T20 World Cup has begun yesterday, and yesterday India had its first India had a first match, and India won that particular match. The match was against USA. So this year the T20 World Cup is co-hosted between India and and Sri Lanka. India and Sri Lanka are co-hosting the matches. So initially, before the match, actually the entire tournament actually commenced, so Bangladesh had shown reservations, citing certain security reasons and saying that they are unwilling to play the matches in India because they feel that their players would not be given significant security given the entire downhill of or downfall of relations between India and Bangladesh. So the International Cricket Council, they issued warnings to Bangladesh initially, and then Bangladesh was replaced with Scotland in the T20 World Cup. Okay. Then Pakistan also said that Pakistan is unwilling to play matches in India. So Pakistan's matches were scheduled in Colombo, that is in Sri Lanka. But then the Pakistan government issued warnings to the Pakistan cricket team saying that Pakistan must boycott matches with India. Okay, they called for boycott of matches with India, and uh, Pakistan used force majeure clause saying that to the ICC, saying that the Pakistan team has been asked by the government to withdraw or to basically boycott the matches with India. What is force majeure clause? The term is force majeure. Okay, so this simply means unforeseeable circumstances that could prevent a contract from being fulfilled, because once you sign a contract, so it is naturally now your onus to ensure that you fulfill the terms of that contract. Now, after signing the contract earlier, now Pakistan is saying that it will boycott the match with India, so that that they can't do without inviting legal implications. So that is why they've enforced the clause of force majeure, which simply means that they are doing so because of unforeseeable circumstances. What were the unforeseeable circumstances? The unforeseeable circumstances were simply this, that the Pakistan government has been pressurizing the cricket team of Pakistan. Okay, keep this in mind. Okay, another piece of news where Trump has the entire trade deal has been highlighted with this one sentence saying that Donald Trump and America has issued these statements saying that India has stopped buying Russian oil, and it is not going to buy Russian oil, but now it is going to undertake energy import from USA, which is naturally going to benefit US. So this was also one of the reasons that the Congress government, the opposition government, have highlighted the fact that the entire trade deal is tilted towards USA's advantage rather than India's. All right. So this is what the actual advantage is all about, that while saying that India has or is going to reduce its entire dependence or import of Russian oil, it is going to buy more energy from USA and probably also eventually Venezuela. Okay. This is one piece of news that you can read. It's a long article, a wonderful one. Now coming to the editorial analysis for today. Okay, the first editorial analysis, it's a very good article which gives you an understanding as to how, if somebody who is not an elected member of legislative assembly or a member of the legislative council, how can that particular person take an oath as a chief minister or a deputy chief minister. Okay, now why is this particular point or this particular piece of information being picked up is because you must be aware that recently the deputy chief minister of Maharashtra, Ajit Pawar, he lost his life in a plane crash, and his wife has been administered the oath, Sunetra Pawar, as the deputy chief minister of Maharashtra. Okay. Now Sunetra Pawar has become the first female deputy chief minister of Maharashtra. Now this draws our attention to the fact that when we look at chief ministers, a chief minister is a popularly elected leader, and the people who've been elected to the legislative assemblies, only they can become the chief minister, because we are a democratic form of government. But here, if we look at the case of Sunetra Pawar has had zero political background. She's not been elected as an MLA or an MLC or an MP for that matter. But she has been administered the oath of the deputy chief minister of Maharashtra. So how is it possible that she can do this? So this draws our entire attention to Article 164(4) of the Constitution, which says that any particular person who is not elected who is not an elected MLA or MLC can take up the oath of a chief minister, but that particular person has to secure the membership of the house within 6 months of taking their oath. Okay, so the maximum duration is 6 months, and within 6 months, through an in-house vote only, he or she must get elected to the house as an MLA or an MLC. Okay, so Article 164(4) is what you have to keep in mind, and you have to keep in mind 6 months of duration. It was on March 16, 1971 that the Supreme Court relied on Article 164(4) and ruled that a person can be appointed as Chief Minister without being an MLA or MLC, and that Article 164(4) applies to Chief Ministers, and that such an appointment is valid up to 6 months. Valid up to 6 months in the sense that within 6 months you have to get yourself elected to the house, become a party member, everything. And if you fail to do so, then you will be removed after 6 months and somebody else will be chosen who can be an elected member already, or again if he is also not an elected member, then he must also ensure that he gets elected as a member of the Legislative Assembly or Legislative Council within 6 months. Okay. Okay. Then the next piece is on mental health crisis, a very important article you must go through. And why is this article actually flagged is naturally because of the recent budget announcements. What are the recent budget announcements? The recent budget announcements is that till now we've only had one National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, which is abbreviated as NIMHANS. And this particular institute in India, we only had one, and it is as of now in Bangalore. Due to which, naturally, to get access to such high level mental health facilities becomes a little difficult for maybe people who are living much away from Bangalore. So in this year's budget, they've proposed that the government is going to set up NIMHANS 2 in North India somewhere. As of now, the place is not decided. Okay. Not only this, but the announcement also says that the two other premier institutions for mental health in North India, one in Ranchi and one in Tejpur, will be provided an upgradation. Okay. So this has also been talked about in the budget this year. And then naturally they have entire talk given you much good details as to why is it important to focus on mental health of the people this year, given the rising number of suicides due to mental health problems, mental issues. One recent case being the 3 girls who committed suicide because of their too much engrossment in online gaming, and obviously they were not mentally sound, they couldn't think rationally. That is why they undertook such a particular step, such an extreme step. And also the article highlights the fact that out of the total allocation of budgetary allocation to health, which is a meager 2% of the total budget. Okay, the health sector in its totality has received only an allocation of 2%, and out of this meager 2%, mental health has been assigned only 2% of 2%. Okay, so it is naturally not a very good, not very good numbers that we are looking at in terms of undertaking massive steps to bring about alleviation of mental health problems. Okay, then it also draws our entire attention to the fact that India is still suffering from redundant mental health facilities, very less in numbers. But then we have undertaken steps like increasing Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, undertaking Ayushman Bharat health and wellness centers. Also, we've talked about sanctioning of 20 centers of excellence to train more postgraduate students in mental health. Here they have talked about providing telemanas, that is an online service in mental health assistance and networking across states. All right, so it is a good article. You must go through, an important one this year. And aligning with that, also another piece of article in the Hindu talks about the entire alignment with development of health facilities and specifically Ayush. Okay, so this year for the development of Ayush, now before we get into the developments and what the article talks about, the most important thing about Ayush is the abbreviation itself. Okay, so Ayush is an abbreviation which stands for, A stands for Ayurveda, Y stands for Unani, Ayurveda, Y stands for yoga, sorry, Y stands for yoga, U stands for Unani, S stands for Siddha and Sova Rigpa, and H stands for homeopathy. Okay, so you must be aware of the abbreviation's full form, which is very, very important. Okay. Okay. Now this year, although whatever 2% of money that has been aligned to the health center, the health sector in the country, what other things that important what are the other things that are important is the free trade agreement that we have undertaken with European Union. Why is this important? Is because one thing that it brings to almost zero tariffs a large number of pharmaceutical and health related imports that we take from European Union to India. So that is one thing that must be kept in mind, because that is now going to make our production of pharmaceuticals and other health appliances and whatever machineries, etc., equipments, etc., much cheaper. And the second thing is that this free trade agreement also talks about, exchange programs, making it much easier for Indians to travel to Europe, settle, and for skilled and semi-skilled laborers to find employment opportunities, etc. All right. So this article, etc., talks in its entirety actually talks about the benefits that Ayushman Bharat is going to draw from the European Union free trade agreement. All right. Okay. Now, one more thing that I want to highlight here is with respect to Ayushman and the development of health sector. The budget has allocated 4,408 crores, which is naturally up from approximately 3 crores, 4 crores last year, 2 crores in 2021. Also, the government has talked about setting up 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda, which is important. Then this All India Institutes of Ayurveda is going to, work along the same lines as All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIMS, does. Then also the budget has pitched to upgrade the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center, which was inaugurated in collaboration with World Health Organization 2-3 years back in Jamnagar. This is, a major push to traditional medicines in the country. Traditional medicines is everything that is Ayush. Okay. So traditional medicines is going to get a major push. Then we obviously have the National Ayush Mission that is undertaken, which seeks to establish Ayush hospitals, clinics, upgrade existing hospitals, all right. And also now the government has sought to integrate AI assistance through Bharat Vistar, all right. And Bharat Vistar is mostly for agriculture. So Bharat Vistar is going to help farmers, align their entire production, etc., with the requirements of Ayush industries in terms of growing medicinal plants in real term advice. Okay. All right. Then this particular part of the article talks about how the India European Union free trade agreement is going to benefit the Ayush sector. Like I told you, it is going to help us, send our Ayush knowledge pool to European Union, and also it talks about reducing or lowering the tariffs on a large number of raw materials that are required in the pharmaceutical sector as well as the health sector. Okay, so this gives you a good insight into the entire Ayush sector in the country. So go through this article, well explained. Okay, then the next one is related to the Iran crisis as of now. So why was Iran brought into news recently? Iran was brought into news recently because USA and Iran have always had not always had, but since 1979, Iran and US have not had very nice warm relations. The relations have fairly taken a cold turn. Then recently, Iran was seeing protests, which was subjugated by the IRGC, which is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is that organization, or which is an organization in Iran which runs under the control of the Ayatollah. And this IRGC and other Iranian police forces, they undertook massive curbing of protests, which resulted in the loss of life of a large number of people in Iran. All right. So US also had an opinion on this, because this protest was against the Ayatollah regime, where people said that the regime is very, very oppressive, and because of its oppressive nature, there are high levels of poverty and unemployment and inflation in Iran. So naturally, US is now getting this entire hint that the people of Iran are protesting against the Islamic State of Iran run under the Ayatollah, and therefore they are getting this opportunity to maybe root out the entire dominance of Ayatollah in Iran. Okay, so US said that Iran must stop the entire massacre and killing of the protesters in Iran. Otherwise, US is going to send an armada. Now, armada means a major tonnage, a major large number of warships, weapons, armaments to wage a war with Iran. Iran also retaliated, saying that Iran is absolutely ready to fight this war to tackle USA. But this article tells us that if you look at the reality of it, so as of now, the protest is going on because of massive levels of inflation and poverty, which simply draws our attention to the fact that maybe economically Iran is not ready to fight a war against the US. It will further cripple the economy of Iran. And the second thing that we must keep in mind, that since the relations between Iran and US had gone downhill, massive economic sanctions have been imposed on Iran. So massive economic in the face of such massive economic sanctions, naturally the economy will not be faring well. Okay, so this entire article is given from the surrounding Abbas Araghchi, who is Arakchi, who is actually the foreign minister of Iran, and they show that how is he navigating through these all the allegations and all the differences that align between Iran and USA. Okay, so this article talks about a lot of things that you must keep in mind with respect to Iran. Is that initially Iran and US had good relations. Then it was post 1979 that the relations between Iran and US fell. Why? Because in 1979 we had the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and the then Shah government of Iran, the Shah monarchy, was done away with, and it was replaced by Ayatollah. Okay, now Ayatollah is the supreme commander, the religious head of Iran, and also the head of the army in Iran. Other than the Ayatollah, we obviously have a president also in Iran, and together the Ayatollah and the president, they've established a dual form of government in Iran. The president of Iran as of now is Masoud Pezeshkian. You must keep the name in mind. Okay. All right. Now, after 1979, Iran has always been a oil-rich region, and US till 1979 was misusing the oil reserves of Iran. After this, Iran started taking control of its own oil reserves, but then naturally, US had to impose sanctions on Iran, citing reasons like Iran is undertaking nuclear enrichment, which was forbidden. Okay, now why was nuclear enrichment forbidden? Was because of a treaty known as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This treaty was signed in 1968, and this treaty gave a definition of nuclear weapon states. And as per Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, all those countries all those countries who have nuclear or who possess nuclear weapons and nuclear energy, nuclear weapons mostly, as of 1st January 1967, will be permitted to harness nuclear energy to develop nuclear weapons, and all other countries, they were asked to sign Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty so that they can't harness nuclear energy to eventually develop nuclear weapons. Okay, so till 1967 only the P5 countries were nuclear weapon countries and no other. So this treaty, because Iran was till 1979 under control of USA, so Iran was a signatory of Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. India is not a signatory of Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and along with India, Pakistan is not a member, Israel is not a member, North Korea is not a signatory, and South Sudan is not a signatory. Okay, all right. Other than that, in 2015, Iran undertook development of nuclear energy. Till 2015, Iran undertook development of nuclear energy in its territorial region, and there are 3 major nuclear sites in Iran. One is Isfahan, one is Natanz, one is Fordo. Okay, ये 3 nuclear energy sites हैं in Iran, and USA brokered a treaty with Iran, which is known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in 2015. And as per the clauses of this treaty, Iran was not permitted to enrich uranium beyond 3.67%. Okay. Then a recent report provided by International Atomic Energy Agency, headquartered in Vienna, founded in 1958, and has a total of 180 members. India is also a member of this. This Atomic Energy Agency basically found and gave a report in the United Nations Security Council saying that Iran was barred from enriching uranium beyond 3.67%, but it has enriched its uranium up to 60%, which was enough to make 9 nuclear bombs. Okay, so it was enough to make 9 nuclear bombs, which gave US impertinent reasons to, wage war and further economic sanctions on Iran. Okay, so in spite of signing this joint comprehensive program of action, as per the views of USA, Iran was not complying by the terms. So in 2018, under the presidentship of Donald Trump, Iran withdrew, USA withdrew from Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And as of now, there is no treaty which is guiding Iran's uranium visions, okay, or uranium needs, okay. So, and Iran was undertaking massive enrichment of uranium, which eventually resulted in the 12-day war between USA, Israel, and Iran in June 2025. Okay, known as 12-day war because the war lasted for an entire period of 12 days. It was during this 12-day war that certain operations were launched that you must keep in mind. One was Operation Midnight Hammer, which was launched by USA to destroy nuclear facilities in Iran. Midnight Hammer by USA. Then we had Operation Rising Lion, which was launched by Israel. In retaliation, Iran also launched an operation, which was Operation True Promise 3. Okay, True Promise 3. And India also launched an operation during the 12-day war, which was known as Operation Sindhu, to bring back Indian citizens from Iran. Okay, so as of now, they are trying to come to the table to undertake negotiations for a peaceful conciliation between between USA and Iran. Okay, and this is a picture of a gharchi. All right, so this is everything that the article talks about. Do go through it; it gives you a good insight. Okay. Then crisis time CM. This draws an entire attention to the recently installed CM Chief Minister in Manipur, and Yumnam Khemchand Singh. And it basically says that with his coming into power, the president's rule has come to an end. But there are certain sections, specifically the Kuki-Zo people, who wanted a scheduled tribe status, and it was because of their entire differences with the Methi tribes and the then government of Manipur, that the violent riots broke out in Manipur. So till now, the Kuki-Zo communities are not happy, and the Kuki-Zo communities actually started protesting against the inclusion of Kuki-Zo MLAs in Manipur. So this article basically gives you an insight as to what was the entire crisis about and what now the new chief minister of Manipur is supposed to do. Okay, then quickly looking into the terminologies, the news piece is not important. I only wanted to flag you the name of Zukoi Valley, which is a major important valley which is found in the state of Nagaland. Okay, So Nagaland shared with Manipur also, but mostly Zuko Valley is found in Nagaland. Yaad rakhna, can be an A-led question. Okay. Then I just wanted to flag this term also for you all, which was GPU capacity. Okay. GPU, the full form stands for graphics processing unit. Okay. And why is this important? The graphic processing unit is simply important because it is going to it is one of the major major inputs for artificial intelligence and for semiconductors. Now, when we look at artificial intelligence, do keep in mind that India is going to host the AI Impact Summit for 2026. Okay, AI Impact Summit 2026, and welfare for all, welfare of everyone. They have a similar theme to this that has been uh, today only it has been announced. They've announced 7 chakras for the AI Impact Summit held in New Delhi this year in 2026. And another thing that I wanted to flag for you all is Semicon. Okay, so Semicon 2.0 yesterday, a total of 10,000 crores of rupees. Sorry, not 10,000. 1,000 crore of rupees have been given to Semiconductor 2.0. Certain facts about Semiconductor 2.0 that you must keep in mind is that Semiconductor 1.0 was launched in 2021, and it was in 2021 that the government had aligned 76,000 crores of rupees. Okay, and in this also the same 76,000 crores of rupees will be continued with its alignment, and Indian Semiconductor Mission, sorry, not Semicon, this is ISM, sorry. Indian Semiconductor Mission 2.0. Now, Indian Semiconductor Mission 1.0 sought to build infrastructure relating to development of semiconductors in the country. Semicon 2.0 is now going to undertake R&D, development of chips, production of semiconductors in the country. Okay, so these were two things that I wanted to flag for you all. Both of these initiatives are undertaken under MITI. Even GPUs undertaken under MITI, and the head of MITI, or the minister for Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology right now is Ashwini Vaishnav. So do keep the name in mind. Okay, that was everything from today's newspaper. I hope it was a nice, interesting session, and I'll see you soon with the next one. Thank you.